What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Wednesday, May 4th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, NBA playoffs. We have a 2-game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the point guard position. I'm not going to waste your time with the stud picks. You know who the studs are. Luka Doncic, James Harden. Those are the two studs that I'm looking at the point guard position. Luka Doncic scored 75 fantasy points last game, played 44 minutes, projected at 59 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. He's always a monster play. Now, James Harden, 2 out of his last 3 games have been subpar. He only scored 33, 53, and 31 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 34, 42, and 39 minutes. Now, he's got clear 50, 60 plus fantasy point upside, although he hasn't flashed that 60 plus fantasy point game in a while, and he has been underperforming more often than not. I still think he's a good play, but just keep your caution on James Harden as he's just not producing like he used to. And then keep caution with Chris Paul because Devin Booker is back. Chris Paul scored 34 fantasy points last game, only played 28 minutes, so I think they gave him a little break. Well, Devin Booker scored 48 fantasy points last game, played 38 minutes. So Devin Booker is only $8,200 DraftKings salary. Now he's $1,100 more on FanDuel, so probably won't go with Devin Booker on FanDuel, but I think he makes a pretty good DraftKings play. At only $8,200, he's projected at 44.2 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.4 times value. So I like Devin Booker here versus the Dallas Mavericks. Now, Tyler Hero, he was a surprise last game. Scored 39 fantasy points, played 29 minutes. He's still listed as questionable, but it looks like he's going to play plenty of minutes and he's got plenty of upside. He's averaging 34.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 29% usage rate. He's projected at 33 fantasy points here tonight. That's just about 5 times value. He's $6,800 DraftKings salary, but he's $800 less on FanDuel. So personally, if I'm going to play Tyler Hero, probably going to be on FanDuel for only $6K. He's got plenty of upside at that price. Now let's take a look at another guy that I like here, Spencer Dinwiddie as a value play. He's still playing 30 plus minutes. Spencer Dinwiddie from the Dallas Mavericks playing the Phoenix Suns. He's averaged 28.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 22% usage rate. And he's projected at 29 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.5 times value. He's only $5,300 DraftKings salary, $200 less on FanDuel. He scored 23, 27, and 16 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So his production is way down now that Luka is back and everything. But he still played 30, 31, and 27 minutes. So I do think he has a pretty good chance of, getting his season average here of 28, 29 fantasy points and crushing value on both sites. So probably one of my favorite lower salary plays on the slate. So I like Spencer Dinwiddie here versus the Phoenix Suns. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. Pretty much gave you most of these guys. They're also eligible at the point guard position. But I think the guy that's in a really good spot here. Now, look, he's coming off of the bench, but he did play 26 minutes last game, just had an off game, only scored 16 fantasy points, but his salary has dropped significantly here. Take a look at Victor Oladipo from the Miami Heat playing the Philadelphia 76ers. He averaged 22.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 22 minutes per game with a 25% usage rate. He's projected at 25.7 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5.7 times value. He's $4,500 DraftKings salary, $600 less on FanDuel. That FanDuel price is just way too cheap. Victor Oladipo, he can put up 25 fantasy points in 20 minutes, even just coming off of the bench. And I mean, Jimmy Butler came back. I know he's not as involved now. He's coming off the bench, but he played 26 minutes last game. So if he can get 25 plus minutes off the bench, this guy's got major upside. His salary is just way too low. So I think he's the best value play on the slate. He has a monster ceiling if his shot starts to fall. He can get hot. This guy is a fantastic player. So I love that FanDuel price, but I think he's a great value play on both sites. So I like Victor Oladipo here versus the Philadelphia 76ers. Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won, and we'll send you $25 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. So Jimmy Butler came back, scored 34 fantasy points in 30 minutes. You know, I would probably wait another game before I play him. I definitely wouldn't play him on FanDuel. It looks like he's $10,300 FanDuel salary. If I'm going to play Jimmy Butler, it would be on DraftKings at only $9,000 DraftKings salary. That seems much more reasonable. So he's a stud that you could look at on DK. Let's take a look here. We have another value play, although I much prefer Victor Oladipo. This guy is kind of right there with Victor. Take a look at Cameron Johnson from the Phoenix Suns playing the Dallas Mavericks. He averaged 23 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 26 minutes per game with an 18% usage rate, projected at 23.8 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. He's $4,600 DraftKings salary, $100 less on FanDuel, and he scored 25, 20, and 26 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 24, 23, and 36 minutes. So even with Devin Booker back in the lineup, still playing 23, 24 minutes a game, got that 20 to 25 fantasy point upside. So I think he's a decent value play here. So I like Cameron Johnson as a value play here versus the Dallas Mavericks. Now, another guy that I think is pretty interesting just because he's playing so many minutes, and even with Devin Booker back, he played 42 minutes last game. So take a look at Mikal Bridges from the Phoenix Suns playing the Dallas Mavericks. Now, he only averaged 26.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 35 minutes per game with a 15% usage rate, but he's been on a pretty nice streak lately. Scored 34, 28, and 52 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 42, 44, and 46 minutes. So he's playing monster minutes. He's projected at 29.6 fantasy points here tonight, just about 5 times value, $6,000 DraftKings salary, $500 more on FanDuel, so I prefer that DraftKings price. But I don't mind Mikal Bridges just because of the minutes that he's playing here versus the Dallas Mavericks. And another guy who's in the same boat just because he's playing monster minutes, is Dorian Finney-Smith from the Dallas Mavericks playing the Phoenix Suns. He's averaging 23.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game. But he scored 25, 42, and 28 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 40, 45, and 40 minutes. So, monster minutes, you gotta love that. He's only 5,600 DraftKings salary, 300 more on FanDuel, projected at 26.8 fantasy points here tonight. But I think he can score 28 fantasy points or more here, get you 5 times value or more. So I like Dorian Finney-Smith here versus the Phoenix Suns. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, who do we have at the power forward position? You got Tobias Harris. He's just a consistent producer. He's averaging 33.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 35 minutes per game with a 22% usage rate. Scored 37, 41, and 31 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 36, 37, and 44 minutes. I think Tobias Harris makes for a very good cash game play. Not so much a tournament play, but he could work in your lineup. He's 7,700 DraftKings salary, 100 more on FanDuel, and he's projected at 36.6 fantasy points here tonight, which is only 4.8 times value. So you see he's got to score like 38 to 40 fantasy points really to be worth playing here. And his upside is somewhat limited. If you look at his last 5 games, scored 37, 41, 31, 38, and 34 fantasy points. In his last 5 games versus the Miami Heat, scored 37, 35, 31, 39, 36. So he's a consistent producer, but he just lacks that explosive upside, which is the reason why he's not the best tournament play. But again, you know, he could get you 5 times value and fit just fine in your lineup if that's the way it builds out. So I like Tobias Harris here versus the Miami Heat. Okay, another value play. I was on this pick last game. He did pretty well. This is really stretching it here. Like, if you just want a high-risk, high-reward play, I think there are better value plays on the slate like Victor Oladipo, Cameron Johnson even, but this guy is lower salary. So take a look at Maxi Klieber from the Dallas Mavericks playing the Phoenix Suns. He averaged 19.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 25 minutes per game with a 13% usage rate. Now, he's only projected at 18.5 fantasy points here tonight. That's only 4.6 times value, but he did score 25 fantasy points last game in 24 minutes. So he's capable of going out there and putting up 25 plus fantasy points, but his upside is definitely limited. He's only 4,000 DraftKings salary. He's 600 more on FanDuel. So if you built your lineup out and you only have like 4,000 something in change, 4,000 left, something 4,100, 200, you can't reach Cameron Johnson or Victor Oladipo. I think Maxi Klieber is a decent play to plug in right there. But otherwise, I'd probably leave him on your bench or, not put him in your lineup. Okay, so moving on to the center position. Now, I was all over this pick when Jimmy Butler was out, but I still like this pick. I like Bam Adebayo from the Miami Heat playing the Philadelphia 76ers. Bam Adebayo has averaged 40.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 25% usage rate, projected at 40.3 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's 8,000 DraftKings salary, 300 more on FanDuel. And Bam Adebayo has scored 51, 44, and 25 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 33, 41, and 29 minutes. So you see he's got that 50-plus fantasy point upside at only 8,000 DraftKings salary. So I like the ceiling that he has, and he could crush value. So I like Bam Adebayo here versus the Philadelphia 76ers. And another center that I like is DeAndre Ayton from the Phoenix Suns playing the Dallas Mavericks. He's averaged 35 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 22% usage rate, projected at 38.2 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's 7,600 DraftKings salary, 300 more on FanDuel. And DeAndre Ayton has scored 37, 41, and 33 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 33, 39, and 35 minutes. So I like DeAndre Ayton here versus the Dallas Mavericks. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.